Good evening. If you're seeking gentle bedtime stories, you've made a spectacular navigational error. Tonight, we're here to gleefully unearth the messy, frequently violent, and utterly absurd details of history. Our subject? Viking raids, or as we'll be affectionately terming them, surprise barbecues where you're occasionally the main course. Tonight, you are the unsuspecting local. The Vikings? They're merely dropping in for a cup of tea, and all your silver, and possibly your roof. So, brace yourself. Your truly terrible medieval day is about to get the Viking treatment. Chapter 1. Your average Tuesday. If your imagination can stretch beyond the crushing boredom of your own, doubtlessly overprivileged existence, it's another glorious dawn in your picturesque hovel. The birds are singing, or more accurately, screaming blue murder, probably because young Ethel next door is trying to teach them her latest dirge. You share your sleeping space, by the way, with two brothers who smell faintly of disappointment and old cheese, and a goat that coughs like a disgruntled walrus. Luxury. Your day, as always, starts with a stimulating game of Find Your Trousers. They're usually under a snoring relative or serving as a temporary nest for something small and unpleasantly scuttling. Today, they're merely damp. Progress. Breakfast is served, a bowl of gruel so thin it's practically water with a grudge. Your mother, bless her perpetually downtrodden heart, uses this time to offer her daily critique of your life choices or lack thereof. Apparently, your inability to wrestle a pig into submission single-handedly is a personal affront to the entire village. Some people are never satisfied. Off to work you trudge, your vital contribution to society today, moving a large pile of mud from one side of a field to the other. Why? Don't ask. Old Man Hemlock, whose brain is widely suspected to have eloped with a passing dung beetle some years ago, decreed it. It builds character, he says. Or possibly just backache and a profound sense of existential dread. Take your pick. So there you are, contemplating the sheer mind-numbing futility of it all, the sun beating down with all the gentle warmth of a blacksmith's forge. Suddenly, young Timmy, a lad whose primary talent is spotting things just before they hit him, starts pointing at the sea, gibbering like a baboon who's misplaced his favorite banana. "Look," he squeaks, his voice several octaves higher than strictly necessary. "Funny boats with very enthusiastic bedsheets." You squint. He's not entirely wrong. Out on the grey, churning misery of the North Sea, there are indeed some rather sleek-looking vessels. And they do have large, square sails, which, from this distance, could, if you were feeling charitable, be described as enthusiastic bedsheets, aggressively patterned ones, mind you. "Probably just the fishmonger from Grimsthorpe-on-Sea," mutters your fellow mud-shifter, a man whose optimism is as boundless as his personal hygiene is lacking. Lost his way, I expect. Or perhaps he's bringing us some slightly less ancient herring. You're not so sure. The Grimsthorpe fishmonger, as far as you recall, doesn't usually travel with quite so many large, hairy men brandishing objects that look suspiciously like oversized letter openers. Nor does he typically announce his approach with a chorus of guttural roars. that would make a dyspeptic dragon sound like a choir boy. Still, who are you to argue with local wisdom? You, whose greatest achievement to date is successfully not dying of boredom before lunch. The fishmongers, as it happens, make landfall with a notable lack of interest in discussing the current market price for cod. Their method of disembarkation involves a great deal of leaping, yelling, and the sort of cheerful waving of axes that rarely precedes a friendly discussion about the weather. One of them, a particularly large specimen with a beard that seems to be auditioning for a role as a small forest animal, and a helmet adorned with rather fetching, if entirely impractical, horns, spots you. He grins, a terrifying vista of surprisingly well-maintained teeth, and bellows something in a language that sounds like someone gargling gravel. Ah, visitors. They've even brought their own cutlery. How thoughtful. You have a sudden, unwelcome suspicion that your already deeply underwhelming Tuesday is about to become significantly more eventful, and that the mud pile will have to wait, indefinitely perhaps. Given the circumstances, the leader of these seafaring philanthropists, let's call him Hairy Olaf, for simplicity's sake, though his actual name was probably something unpronounceable involving at least three sounds and a sneeze, strides towards your village elder. Old Man Hemlock, ever the diplomat, attempts a greeting. This mostly involves him dribbling slightly and pointing a shaky finger at his prize-winning, though tragically maggot-infested, turnip. Hairy Olaf, clearly unimpressed by the local horticulture, responds by cleaving Hemlock's turnip in twain with a single fluid motion of his axe. It's a masterclass in vegetable vandalism, if nothing else. Hemlock looks as though his entire worldview has just been similarly bisected, which, in a way, it has. The other fishermen are now fanning out, with the sort of purposeful enthusiasm usually reserved for a free ale festival. They seem particularly interested in the chickens, and the pigs, and, as it turns out, anything not nailed down. And some things that are nailed down, which they seem to view as a personal challenge to their unnailing skills. Young Ethel, the one with the voice like a rusty hinge, attempts to serenade them with her latest composition, Ode to a Slightly Damp Sock. This, remarkably, seems to halt their advance for a full 3 seconds, possibly out of sheer auditory shock, or perhaps they're connoisseurs of truly avant-garde musical forms. It's hard to say. Then, one of them, sporting a rather fetching eye patch and a necklace apparently fashioned from the teeth of some unfortunate creature, decides Ethel's performance would be greatly improved by the percussive accompaniment of her head meeting the side of the pigsty, repeatedly. It's not exactly a standing ovation, but it's certainly impactful. You, meanwhile, are employing the ancient and time-honored survival tactic of trying to look as inconspicuous as a particularly dull clod of earth. This is surprisingly effective, given that most of your village already considers you as such. Your brothers, with their usual flair for strategic thinking, have adopted the run-around-in-circles screaming approach. It's less effective, but undeniably energetic. The air is now thick with the scent of wood smoke, not the comforting hearth and home variety, but the more alarming "your roof is now a bonfire kind. There are also various interesting new sounds, the clash of metal, the splintering of wood, and the high-pitched yelps of people discovering that their most treasured possessions are being enthusiastically rehomed by large, bearded men with a questionable grasp of property law. It's all terribly vibrant, a real cultural exchange, as they say, though the exchange seems somewhat one-sided at present, mostly flowing in the direction of their longboats. You notice Harry Olaf admiring your family's prized possession, a slightly dented, but otherwise serviceable, cooking pot. Your mother attempts to reason with him, employing a series of gestures that could mean anything from, "Please, kind sir," "Spare our pot," to "May your armpits be infested."